So today we have a guest in the studio that's really exciting. You're going to hear some interesting stuff, especially if you're running a business or starting a business, whether you're a small or large corporate. This one here is just for you. Help me welcome Mr. Thomas Musoni. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm great. I'm looking forward to finding out what we're going to talk about and what I'm going to say, because I don't really know what I'm going to say.
We're really excited. We just want to know a little bit about you, really, before we get into the topic. But today we are talking about branding. And I know it's something that someone out there wants to hear about.
Okay. Well, as you said, my name is Thomas Musoni. I'm, as simply as I can state it, I'm a creative strategist. Okay. My job is to turn information into value. If we sit down and talk about anything, I tend to be able to help people to make that thing pay or maximize the capacity of it.
I like that.
So that's, you tend to do then a lot of work in the area of branding, because that's where a lot of people tend to want to think about things like that. But I've been involved with things like organizational culture development, issues like that, even business strategies, even project development, because it involves the same skill. It's understanding what's needed and being able to ask the questions that generate the answers that produce the best result.
Okay. Fantastic. So we are talking about branding. How important is branding in business? In fact, you could just start by maybe at least your understanding of what branding is.
Okay. I'll go back to the first thing you said, and then I will. I think that the real question is, how important is conscious branding? Because branding itself is inevitable. Okay. Because every single action is branding. Whether or not you are consciously carrying it out. So the importance of conscious branding cannot be overstated, right? You need to be actually responsible for what you're doing, and you need to be conscious of what you're doing from the start.
Right. Be deliberate about it.
Yeah. And then you asked what branding is.
How would you?
What I want to branding basically is taking various actions that reinforce the idea you want to have people understand of what you are or what you're offering. Okay. But I want to first give a definition of what a brand must be. Okay. A brand is really the totality or the complete experienced reality of an individual, an organization, a product, a service, whatever it might be. The complete experienced reality of any of those is what the brand actually is. Okay. So that's why I say when you say we are branding, you should really put the word consciously before that. We are consciously now branding.
I like that.
In other words, we are taking stock of how we are understood and experienced, and looking to then actively either correct or leverage that understanding to achieve something else. As opposed to a situation where we say we are creating some abstract idea of what a brand is supposed to be. Right. That's divorced from the reality of what we are. But when we are consciously branding, we are taking ownership of that perception and either leveraging it or correcting it. Okay. I don't know how much sense I've made there.
Yes, I hear you about the conscious branding, because you're basically saying one has to be deliberate about it. But you say that whether or not you actually know it, you are already branding anyway. But it's the consciousness that's important, where you then say you're actually taking stock.
Precisely.
Right. So, okay. Now that we know what branding is, what can you say to maybe a company that's just starting, like startups? Sometimes, one is probably not really thinking about their brand at that time in terms of really consciously working out what it is that they are, because maybe they're looking at just who their customers are and so forth, and that's what they're sort of focusing on. How would you maybe advise in such a situation? Is branding important from the beginning, that conscious branding, or is it something they can take on further on in their business? Is it something that can wait, or it's as critical as everything else that they're doing at the point of setup?
Okay. Again, I need to clarify. These are the challenges that we have when we're dealing with corporates. And I'm glad you're asking the questions the way you are, because it allows room for us to begin to
clarify
correct that. Yeah.
Exactly.
The moment you decide to offer a service, the moment you decide to set up a business, you are setting up a brand already, automatically. Okay. Your brand is either solving a problem, addressing a need of some kind,
right,
promoting an idea of some kind, whatever it is. But you have recognized a gap in the market, and you are responding to the gap. So that gap and your response to it is the beginning of the brand, because that is the first thing that the market will understand about the brand. That, oh, these guys are addressing this gap, because the market is aware of the gap. They just haven't found a solution.
Right.
So the moment you step in, they say, this thing is now there. So that's the first reality, the first experience reality of your brand. The next thing is how well you address the gap.
Okay.
That is then the next level of understanding of your brand. That is now again the beginning of the conscious process of saying the market should be able to say, wow, these guys address the gap better than anybody has done, right? Because that determines whether or not your brand connects consistently or sustainably with the market. So first you have come in and they say, that guy's addressing the gap. Let's go there and let's deal with it. They come in and then they experience how you deliver the service.
Right.
Will now determine the next level of the brand experience. Right. So we come in, we interact with you, and we say, wow, we really like the way he's done it. He's even surprised us in a couple of things. It can be very basic, or it can be really interesting. I'm going to digress a little bit, but it comes back to the same point.
Go on.
I developed a model some time ago for this kind of thing, for creative thinking, really. But it speaks to this as well, in the sense that I call the model sadza nyama muriwo ne muto. Okay, sadza, gravy, greens,
nyama muriwo ne muto.
And meat. Yeah. Essentially, when you identify the gap, okay, you can address it at the basic sadza level. Okay, we want you to eat sadza. Everybody wants sadza. Everybody's going to get hungry. So I can just put a plate of sadza in front of you.
Okay,
I am addressing the gap technically, and you can come in and you can get sadza.
Right.
Okay, and if you're hungry enough, you're going to eat it just as it is, because you know what, you're hungry.
Yeah.
Okay. But how sustainable my operation is, and how relatable it becomes, and how loved the brand becomes, is a function of my ability to put the other bits around it. Right, the gravy, the meat, the greens, put all that stuff around it and make it taste really nice. Because I can put gravy and meat and beans and whatever around, but they're not particularly well made. There isn't a lot of care. It's just it's to just get me into eating. But people will consume all this. But at the end of the day, you know, in our language, if you say, "What did you eat? What did you eat?"
Yeah.
We'd never talk about the stuff that
the rest of it.
I'll have to ask you to majigane, then, or what did you have it with? Then you tell me.
Yeah.
So you've consumed the core, but you've enjoyed it because of the stuff around it.
Right.
So your brand is what you're able to build around the core.
Okay.
If you, or at least I shouldn't say that your brand. Your brand is what you give. And how you're able to build things around the core determines the beauty, the attraction, the sustainability
your
of
uniqueness.
Your brand. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if that's making sense. So
yes, it is.
So for somebody starting up, they must understand that the moment they conceive of the idea, they've already conceived of a potential brand. So at that point, you should already start thinking and saying, okay, we can just open up a store and just put things in front of people and people come in and get them. Or we can create an experience that then becomes part of the whole experience of what we are, of the consumption of what we're offering. Then you are thinking conscious branding.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I like that. You bring in that aspect again of that conscious branding, because that's what I wanted to come out to say. If somebody is starting a business, how important is it that they understand this right from the start? So following on that, what can, in fact, first of all, I wanted to know what you have observed on the market in terms of corporates and understanding of this. What are some of the pitfalls you've seen, if any?
My general realization is that there is the idea that a brand is for many of them, it's your logo. Okay. It's the visual identity. Okay. The representation visually of who you are, the thing that says we are here. Right? For a lot of people, that's what the brand is. For others, it is advertising. Okay. And what you say. Right? And so somewhere between those two places, we get lost and we get into trouble because we have it means your brand only exists at the point of sale, or at the point it exists in the public space. It does not exist in the internal space where leadership, management, and everybody else is putting out the thing that the signpost represents. Okay. Whereas if you are being true about branding, it should go all the way in. Okay. The brand begins at the very top. It begins with the vision that was there when the thing was conceived, and the vision that drives all responses to the market at all points. Okay. My best example of a person, a leader who personified his brand, would be Steve Jobs. Okay. I'm not necessarily a Steve Jobs fan, but when you look at him, you understand how deep a brand needs to go, because he was obsessive about every detail of what went into the product. It was a real issue. And he was as fussy as his product was. Okay. He personified the brand. Okay. If a thing wasn't good enough, it wasn't good enough. It didn't go into the product. Right. And he famously lived in a mansion with maybe 3 or 4 pieces of furniture the whole of his life when he acquired property, because he liked the property, but he could not find pieces that he could put in his property all at once and furnish. So there were 2 or 3 pieces, and he lived there for the longest time in that state because it was so important for him that it be correct. And that's the way he was with his product, right? So the product became an extension of himself. We need to own our product, our experienced selves, the same way. Where you are saying, when people, your logo is like the signpost at the street corner that says, this is the street. If you take that signpost and you put it somewhere else, that place does not become the street that signpost is pointing to. The logo just says, come in here and experience this street. Right. So when I come in, the experience I have is the brand. And my frustration or elation with that experience becomes what the brand actually is. The signpost only directs me to come and experience it. So very often, we will say many wonderful things in advertising. Come and buy. This is the greatest that you've ever had. We are better than everybody else. We'll say all these things in advertising. It's what we do. Then you come in and the experience is not quite the same.
Yeah, you find it's different.
Right. So now that's why I said at the beginning, the brand is the total experienced reality of a product, a service, individual, organization. Because that confusion is actually your brand.
Total experienced reality.
Right? That confusion is is actually what your brand is. That dissonance, that thing that there's a disconnect between leadership, management, and storefront or shop floor.
Right.
Those disconnects are your brand. Right.
Ouch.
It's not what the person walks out with. It's what they understand and recognize that, you know what, these guys say all these things, but I've just been in here and I've experienced this and it's not doing it for me. Right. And then you keep pushing out adverts that keep saying these amazing things, but nobody really believes you because the reality, with the experienced reality of your brand, the advert is designed to do one thing. It's designed to get somebody into your shop once or to pick up your product once. The product itself thereafter or your shop thereafter must do the work of making sure they come back again.
All right. So I'm just thinking, are there any reasons one would need to rebrand?
I guess I need to ask you a question first before I respond to that.
Okay.
Are we talking rebranding as in redefining, regenerating a brand, or are we talking brand redesign, which is very often considered to be rebranding here?
Actual rebranding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, there are two principal reasons that one might want to rebrand, because it's quite a bold action to take when you rebrand. So either there's something really, really problematic that has happened with the original brand and you need to move away from it and tell a new story. Okay. Or there is a new opportunity with which you want to align yourself and identify yourself.
Right. And connect.
That is a bigger story and reality than you can tell from the brand where you've been sitting.
Okay.
So you need to then generate and create a new brand and rebrand yourself and reintroduce yourself to the market as this idea that's wider or better or greater.
And what does it take? What are we saying? What is it and what is it not? Because I see you do have that distinction.
Okay. Like I was saying, a lot of what passes for rebranding here is really brand redesign. Okay. Which is, I am Thomas Musoni in orange today. I become Thomas Musoni in green tomorrow.
Okay. That's not.
I'm still Thomas Musoni.
Right.
Okay. Yes, you can do both. You can redesign your brand, but rebrand yourself in terms of maybe the underlying values, the story you are now telling, you from new learnings that you've achieved. So yes, you can achieve a rebranding even with just a brand redesign. Okay. Because that's just your visual ID. The brand, again, like we said, is the experience. So if I'm bringing a new experience to the table and telling a new story that wins you over differently, then yes, I've rebranded, even though my name is still the same. But what I'm hoping is that I can change the narrative around my name by what I am now presenting and dynamize it or energize it or rehabilitate it, as the case may be. I may not be in trouble, but I might just need to add some juice. But I could be in trouble and I just need to really, really rework this whole thing and say, no, I am Thomas Musoni, but please wait, you don't understand. I am transformed. I am this reality as opposed to that reality. So you can rebrand behind the same name, maybe change your color just to allow people to see you differently so you can tell a new story. But a lot of times what passes for rebranding here is really just brand redesign. It's visual brand redesign, not even brand redesign. When I say, because brand is bigger than your visual, but your visual brand gets redone, but your whole story is still the same. So you haven't rebranded, you've just changed how that story is visually introduced to you. But once you enter the story, it's the same book. So it's like, I guess you get these new editions of old books, but it's the same book, if you will. But we've redesigned the page or the cover. It used to be, before I was a big name writer, my name was very small. The title of the book was huge. But now they realize that there's equity in my name. So my name is gigantic and the title is very small. You buy that book, and if you already had it on the shelf, you've just bought the same book twice. Okay, but we have repackaged it. Okay.
I hear you. So what would you say a conscious branding can do for a business?
It is the key to success, really. When you actively, consciously understand that branding is happening all the time, and you get out in front of it and actually actively do it, because that forces you to check yourselves continuously and to constantly be reconciling the experience with the intent. Okay. Our intent and what people pick up may not always be consistent, right? So it's important to be able to constantly keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the actual market,
right,
and your intent, and keep sharpening your tools, because you're saying, this is what we want people to understand. But is it what they're actually understanding? And if not, why are they not understanding it? Then you are in a constant dialogue with your market, and you're able to keep responding to them. And when a brand is responsive, that brand is power and sustainability. The brands that don't respond are the brands that quickly die. And very often those are the leading brands in any area who would think maybe they are too big to respond. Yes.
Wow, there's so much to talk about. Are there any right and wrong reasons to rebrand? How can an organization go about it? Some of the pitfalls, but I think we would like to have a follow-up program to this. In the meantime, I just want you to probably give us parting words as we wrap up, and where one could find you if they want to revitalize their organization in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Parting words. Look, the worst organizations I've come across are the organizations where, okay, I'm going to do, you have to, this is almost a plug for a corporation. Okay, but I have to share this. I shared Steve Jobs, who is a foreign example.
Right.
I want to share a Zimbabwean example.
Okay.
A few years ago, I had a chance to sit down with Mr. Mataranyika.
Okay.
I was pitching an idea to him. My pitch took about 20 minutes. And then I thought I was going to answer a few questions and leave. But on the back of the pitch and the ideas I brought up, he and I ended up in a conversation that went on for about an hour and a bit.
Wow.
Where he was walking me through the vision and the things that are happening and so on. In that post-presentation session, I understood why it's unlikely anyone in the space that he's operating in can overtake or match him.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Because I won't mention a name, but there is a brand that was once the market leader in that space before Nyaradzo took over, because they are unquestionably the market leader now. That brand was taken over by some investors.
Okay.
Okay, who brought in money, took it over, and have been running it.
Okay.
And it is not as healthy or as vibrant or as strong as some people will remember it as having been. And I concluded that the difference between the way that brand went and the way Nyaradzo went, that first brand, the investors invested money.
Okay.
With Nyaradzo, Mr. Mataranyika invested himself.
I've seen that. I've also really seen that.
He lives the brand. He is the brand. He is energized by the brand.
So true.
He's there. Okay. And you can see the results for yourself, because the growth of Nyaradzo, the success of Nyaradzo is very, very much built on that reality. And that truth is applicable to anybody setting up any operation.
Okay.
When you are invested in what you are doing and you wake up every day.
Yes.
And it's not a passive income earner for you. It is an active income earner. You are there and you are invested and you are driven to make sure that this thing is communicating a truth that consistently resonates with your market. There is no limit to where you can go. and you'll surprise yourself. So those are my parting words and my encouragement to anybody who is looking to establish a business. When you are establishing a business, you are establishing a brand. There's no cleavage between those two things.
Okay.
A business is a brand.
Okay.
And the moment it exists, it is branding. So know it, get out in front of it, actively own it, actively develop it. As for your last question, where people can find me.
Yes.
My email is Musonza, M-U-S as in Stephen, O-N-Z-A at outlook.com. You can drop me an email there. I'm also on LinkedIn, I think under my own name, Thomas Musoni.
Okay.
Or you can call me, ideally before 6, because I don't really want people calling me after 6. That's my brand.
PM?
Yes. On 0782005095. And we can have a chat about these things. I hope this was helpful, and somebody picked up something of value in it.
That's our hope as well. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas Musoni.
Yes.
I don't know what's happening with your name today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
But oh my. We have to hear from you again. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. You are most welcome. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and listening. I'm hoping that you got some value, and I want to encourage you to follow Naledi online. So like it, subscribe, click for notifications. Let's get this platform growing and going, and let's make it be the brand that Naledi sees in her mind, and let's help her get this brand to where it needs to be. Thank you very much.